How dare a black woman like you walk into a Bennett family deathbed? Victoria Bennett Crawford's diamond ring flashed as she ripped the envelope from Amara's hands, throwing it across the hospital floor. You gold-digging piece of... Victoria, stop! Gregory blocked the doorway at 3:42 a.m., his face twisted with disgust. Security's coming. Father would be horrified knowing some black mistress tried to crash his final moments. Amara Brooks stood frozen. 56 years old, exhausted from her Portland flight, watching these people, her husband's children, treat her like trash. I'm not his mistress, she said quietly. Then what are you? Victoria spat. Attorney Jonathan Hayes stepped forward, briefcase open. She's his wife. Legal marriage certificate, January 14th, 1995. 30 years. He paused. And that's Sophia Bennett behind her. Your father's daughter. Your sister. In the bed, billionaire Harrison Bennett's eyes opened, tears streaming. Amara, they don't know. They never knew. The $850 million fortune they thought was theirs? Everything was about to change. To understand how a stranger became Mrs. Bennett while Harrison's children watched in shock, you have to go back 33 years. Back to a spring morning in 1992, when two people from different worlds collided in a way that would haunt them both. Amara Brooks was 27 years old when she met Harrison Bennett. She'd grown up in Atlanta, the daughter of middle-class parents who'd worked twice as hard for half the recognition. Her father was a teacher, her mother a nurse. Both were educated, dignified people who'd taught Amara one fundamental truth. Excellence wasn't optional when the world was watching for you to fail. She'd earned a full scholarship to Howard University, graduated with honors in business administration, and climbed her way up in corporate finance. She was brilliant with numbers, sharp in negotiations, and exhausted by the constant need to prove herself in rooms where she was often the only black face. By 1992, she'd made it to Morrison & Associates, a respected financial consulting firm in New York. She was good at her job, better than good, but she still felt the weight of being seen as a diversity hire, no matter how many successful deals she closed. Harrison Bennett was 50 years old that spring. Born in 1945 to Connecticut old money, the Bennett shipping fortune, he'd lived the life expected of him. The right schools, the right marriage, the right career path. He'd married Constance Whitmore in 1968 because that's what people in their position did. They'd produced 3 children. Gregory in 1965, Victoria in 1968, Thomas in 1974. By 1985, whatever warmth had existed between them had frozen over completely. They lived in the same mansion but occupied different planets. He had his wing, she had hers. They appeared together for charity galas and family photos, and that was enough. He was CEO of Bennett Global Holdings by then, respected in business circles, comfortable in his power. But there was an emptiness he couldn't name, a sense that he was playing a role in his own life rather than living it. They met at a business conference in New York. Harrison was the keynote speaker, discussing emerging markets in East Asia. Amara was there representing her firm, taking notes, unimpressed. After his speech, during the reception, someone in the crowd bumped into Harrison and his champagne glass tipped, splashing wine across his sleeve. Amara happened to be standing nearby. She handed him her napkin without a word, just a slight smile that said she found the whole scene mildly amusing. Hazards of celebrity, Mr. Bennett, she said. He looked at her, really looked, and something shifted. Thank you. I don't believe we've met. Amara Brooks, Morrison & Associates. They ended up talking for 20 minutes. Not about business networking or polite small talk, but actual conversation. She challenged his assumptions about the Japanese market with sharp data he hadn't considered. He found himself energized in a way he hadn't felt in years, having to actually think, to defend his positions, to engage. When the reception ended, they exchanged business cards. I'd like to continue this conversation, he said. She gave him a knowing look. I'm sure you would, Mr. Bennett. But let's be clear about what kind of conversation you're actually interested in. Her directness should have offended him. Instead, it intrigued him more. 3 weeks later, they had dinner. A discreet restaurant in Manhattan where business associates could meet without raising eyebrows. Harrison arrived early, which was unusual for him. He was nervous, which was even more unusual. When Amara arrived, wearing a simple black dress and her grandmother's gold bracelet, he stood like a schoolboy. They talked for 3 hours. The conversation drifted from business to books to music to their childhoods. He told her about losing his older brother in Vietnam, how it had shaped his father's expectations of him as the surviving son. She told him about losing her younger sister to leukemia when she was 12, how it had made her mother fierce about protecting what remained. Somewhere during dessert, he reached across the table, almost touched her hand, then pulled back. She noticed. "We both know this is complicated, Harrison," she said quietly. "I'm separated from my wife," he said. "Have been for years, in every way that matters. Separated isn't divorced." "No," he admitted, "but it's honest. Constance and I haven't been a real marriage since the 80s. We're housemates at best." Amara studied him. "And your children?" "Grown. Gregory's 27, working at the company. Victoria's 24, married. Thomas is 18, in college. They know their parents' marriage is a formality." "Do they?" Amara asked. "Or is that what you tell yourself?" He had no good answer for that. But they kept seeing each other. Over the next 6 months, they met regularly. Always private, always discreet. Early morning walks through Central Park when the city was still quiet. Late showings at Lincoln Center where they could sit in darkness. Coffee shops in neighborhoods where no one knew his face. He brought her gardenias because she'd mentioned once they were her favorite. She brought him articles and books that challenged his worldview, made him think differently about markets, about people, about himself. By October 1992, 6 months in, Harrison was in love. Deeply, completely, in a way he'd never experienced with Constance. Amara was cautious, but she was falling too. She saw past his privilege to the loneliness underneath. She saw a man who'd spent his whole life performing expectations and was tired of the stage. But she also saw the complications. One evening, walking along the river, she asked him directly, "When are you filing for divorce?" Harrison hesitated. "Constance's mother is ill. Terminal. After she passes, I'll file. I promise. But right now, while she's dying, the stress of a divorce would devastate her. And Constance, despite everything, shouldn't have to face that public scrutiny while burying her mother." Amara stopped walking. "How long?" "The doctors say 6 months, maybe less." She looked at him for a long moment. "I understand waiting for someone's death. I do. But Harrison, I need to know this is real. That I'm not just a midlife crisis you'll walk away from when it gets complicated." He took her hands. "You're the most real thing in my life, Amara. I promise you that." It was the first promise. The first delay. December came. They slept together for the first time. January 1993, and they were fully in love. Amara had stopped being cautious. Harrison had stopped questioning whether this was right. They simply were. But Amara also started advising him privately on business deals. Her insights were extraordinary. She had an instinct for emerging markets, for timing, for risk assessment that was sharper than anyone on his board. Several of his most profitable moves in the early 90s were based on her analysis. He came to depend on her intellectually as much as emotionally. But publicly, she remained invisible. Constance's mother died in June 1993. Harrison didn't file for divorce. "The estate needs to settle first," he explained. "It's complicated. There are trusts involved. After it's resolved." September 1993. Victoria's wedding was planned for October. "After the wedding," Harrison said. I don't want to overshadow her day with family drama. She deserves one perfect moment. Spring 1994. A major business merger was underway. After this deal closes, he told Amara, if I appear personally unstable right now, the board could tank the whole thing. Hundreds of jobs are on the line, just a few more months. Amara listened to each excuse. Each one sounded reasonable. Each one felt like a tiny death. But she loved him, and she believed he loved her. So she waited. In August 1994, 2 years into their relationship, Harrison finally filed for divorce. Constance didn't contest it. She was, in fact, relieved. Their marriage had been a cold performance for so long that ending it felt like mercy. But she had one condition. You will not parade some inappropriate woman in front of our children or in society, she told him. I'll give you the divorce quietly, quickly, with minimal settlement demands, but I expect discretion. Harrison agreed. The divorce was finalized in December 1994. On New Year's Eve, Harrison proposed to Amara. She said yes. On January 14, 1995, they married at City Hall. It was a small ceremony. Amara's parents were there, thrilled but concerned. Harrison's assistant, Edward Mills, was there as witness. No one else. Amara wore a simple white dress. Harrison wore a suit. They exchanged rings and vows and became Mr. and Mrs. Harrison Bennett in the eyes of the law. We'll go public soon, Harrison promised as they left City Hall. I just need to manage the family's reaction carefully. 6 months. I'll tell them after things settle. Amara, 27 years old, newly married, wanted to believe him. She was Mrs. Harrison Bennett now. That was real. The rest would follow. But it didn't. Harrison maintained his primary residence at the Bennett estate in Connecticut. For appearances, he said. For business access. He purchased a beautiful townhouse for Amara in Brooklyn Heights. But it was held in a trust, not his direct name. For tax purposes, he claimed. He split his time. Public life in Connecticut with business associates and his adult children. Real life with Amara in Brooklyn. She quit her corporate job, partly at his request. I'll take care of you, he said, partly from her own exhaustion with fighting for recognition in white-dominated finance. She started consulting from home, managing investments. She was quite good at it, but she was also quite alone. The months passed. 1995 became 1996. Harrison's excuses multiplied. Gregory is struggling with his confidence at the company. If I announce a new wife now, especially, it would destabilize him. He's finally finding his footing. Just 6 more months. We're taking the company public next year. My personal life needs to look stable and traditional for the IPO. After it succeeds, we'll make our announcement, I promise. My mother is declining. She's 83. If she found out now, the stress could kill her. After she passes, I'll tell everyone. No more delays. Each promise sounded reasonable in isolation. Each delay felt like Amara was being erased a little more. Harrison's mother died in March 1998. The funeral was large, formal, filled with Connecticut society. Amara watched the news coverage from Brooklyn. She wasn't there. Couldn't be there. No one knew she existed. When Harrison came to Brooklyn that night, she was waiting. I should have been there, Amara said quietly. I'm your wife. I should have been at your mother's funeral. I know, Harrison said. I'm sorry. She never knew about you. I couldn't tell her at the end, she was so frail, and having you there would have required explanations I wasn't ready to give. When will you be ready, Harrison? It's been 3 years. After the estate settles, I promise. No more delays after this. Amara looked at him for a long moment. You said that last time. I mean it this time. But October 1998 brought something unexpected. Amara discovered she was pregnant. She was 30 years old. Harrison was 53. When she told him, his reaction was complex. Joy, certainly. He'd always wanted more children, but also panic. Panic about how to explain a baby when no one knew about the marriage. "This is perfect," he said finally, trying to convince himself as much as her. "A baby makes it real, makes it undeniable. This will force my hand, will announce everything. The marriage, the pregnancy. This is actually perfect timing." Amara wanted to believe him. Sophia was born on May 15th, 1999. She was beautiful, healthy, perfect. Amara held her daughter and felt complete in a way she'd never imagined. Harrison was there for the birth, holding Amara's hand, crying when Sophia took her first breath. "She has your eyes," he whispered. "She has your stubbornness," Amara replied. For 2 weeks, Harrison barely left the Brooklyn townhouse. He held Sophia, changed diapers, brought Amara tea while she recovered. He was present, attentive, in love with his new family. But then reality set back in. "I need to tell them," Amara said. "Gregory, Victoria, Thomas, they need to know they have a sister." "I will," Harrison promised. "I'm just waiting for the right moment." Gregory just stabilized in his VP position. Victoria just had her first child. Thomas is in rehab. There's so much chaos right now. When things calm down, I'll tell them everything. "When, Harrison? When will things be calm enough?" "Soon, I promise." But soon never came. The years 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004 passed. Sophia grew from baby to toddler to little girl. She had her father's intelligence, her mother's grace, and a childhood split between presence and absence. Harrison visited 3, 4 times a week, weekends when he could get away. He adored Sophia, played with her, read to her, taught her chess when she was 4 years old. But Sophia also learned early that Daddy didn't live with them, that Daddy had another house, that she couldn't visit Daddy's work, or meet Daddy's other family, or tell people at school who her father really was. "Why doesn't Daddy live here?" Sophia asked when she was 5. Amara had no good answer. "Daddy has work obligations, sweetheart." "Other kids' daddies have work too, but they still live at home." Amara looked at her daughter and felt something crack inside her chest. May 15th, 2005, Sophia's 6th birthday. Amara threw a small party at the Brooklyn townhouse. Amara's parents were there, some neighborhood friends, a few kids from Sophia's kindergarten class. Sophia kept watching the door. "Is Daddy coming?" she asked. "He promised he would," Amara assured her. But 3 o'clock came and went. 4 o'clock, 5. The party ended. Harrison never showed. At 7 that evening, Sophia was in bed when Harrison finally called. "I'm so sorry," he said. "Emergency board meeting. A crisis with the Tokyo office. I couldn't get away." "I'll make it up to her. I promise." Amara had watched her daughter's face fall every time the doorbell rang, and it wasn't Daddy. She'd watched Sophia blow out candles with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You always promise, Harrison," Amara said quietly. "But your promises don't mean anything anymore." That night, after Sophia was asleep, Amara stood in her bathroom looking at herself in the mirror. She was 37 years old. She'd been married for 10 years. Her husband's children didn't know she existed. Her daughter thought it was normal for fathers to be part-time visitors. What was she teaching Sophia about her own worth? Fall 2005. Amara made a decision. Harrison came to Brooklyn on a Thursday evening. Sophia was at her grandmother's house. Amara had timed this carefully. She needed to say what needed saying without their daughter hearing. "We need to talk," she said. Harrison sensed the seriousness. "What's wrong?" "Everything. Harrison, it's been 10 years. 10 years since we got married. Your children don't know I exist. Your colleagues don't know. Sophia is 6 years old and she thinks it's normal that her father is a secret. You know how much I love you both." "Love isn't enough if it comes with shame," Amara said. "I need you to choose, Harrison. Publicly. by Sophia's 7th birthday next May. Either you introduce us as your family, publicly and officially, or we're done. Amara, please, don't make ultimatums. It's not an ultimatum. It's a boundary. I've waited 10 years. Sophia deserves a father who claims her proudly. I deserve a husband who isn't ashamed of me. Harrison's face crumpled. I'm not ashamed of you. Then prove it. You have until May 15th, 2006. 8 months. Tell your family. Tell your board. Tell the world. Or I'm done waiting. Those 8 months were tense. Harrison called constantly, promised constantly, but took no action. Gregory needed him focused on succession planning. Victoria was having marital problems. Thomas had relapsed. There was always something. May 15th, 2006. Sophia's 7th birthday. Another party. Another day. Sophia watched the door hoping Daddy would come. He didn't. He called that evening with another excuse. The board is voting on succession planning next week. If I rock the boat with personal news now, Gregory might lose his position as heir apparent. Just 6 more months. Amara's voice was calm, eerily calm. No. What? No more months. No more excuses. I'm done, Harrison. Amara, please don't do this. I'm not doing anything. You did this. For 10 years you did this. I'm just finally accepting reality. I love you. I know you do. But you love your image more. You love your comfort more. You love avoiding conflict more. And I'm done teaching our daughter that love means accepting invisibility. June 2006. Amara told Harrison she needed space. Real space. She didn't file for divorce immediately. Part of her still hoped he'd find courage. But she stopped waiting. She stopped adjusting her life around his schedule. She stopped making herself small. When you're ready to be my husband in daylight, call me, she said. Until then, I need to live like I matter. Harrison was devastated. He called weekly, sometimes daily, begging for another chance, promising that soon, very soon, he'd make everything public. But he never did. The months became years. 2007, 2008, 2010, 2015, 2020. They remained legally married but separated. Harrison sent money. Amara invested it for Sophia's future. He called every week. He visited Sophia occasionally, on her terms now. But Amara kept her distance. She rebuilt her life. Her investment consulting thrived. She was good, maybe better than when she'd worked for firms. She made her own money, built her own security. She raised Sophia with her parents' help, teaching her daughter one fundamental lesson: never accept being someone's secret. Sophia grew up knowing exactly who her father was and what he'd chosen. She loved him in the complicated way you love someone who disappoints you consistently. But she also understood, watching her mother, what self-respect looked like. Harrison never stopped calling, never stopped regretting, never stopped loving Amara. But he also never found the courage to go public. Year after year, he remained in Connecticut, respected and empty, calling Brooklyn to talk to the family he'd chosen to hide. Amara made peace with it. She'd loved him. Part of her still did. But she'd also learned that you can't make someone brave. You can only choose whether to diminish yourself waiting for them. In 2019, Amara moved to Portland, Oregon. A fresh start. Sophia was 20 by then, living in Seattle working in tech. Amara wanted distance from New York, from Connecticut, from the ghost of waiting. She changed her professional name slightly, went by Amara Brooks in business, though legally she remained Brooks Bennett. She bought a small house with a garden. She consulted, invested, lived quietly. Harrison still called every Sunday. Sometimes she answered. Sometimes she didn't. November 2024. 18 years after their separation. Harrison was 79 years old. He'd been feeling unwell for months. Fatigue, weight loss, a persistent cough he'd ignored. Finally, his doctor insisted on tests. The diagnosis came back on a Tuesday. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Aggressive, advanced. The oncologist was gentle but clear. With treatment, perhaps 6 to 8 weeks. Without treatment, less. Harrison sat in the doctor's office alone. Gregory, Victoria, and Thomas didn't know yet. He'd gone to the appointment by himself, expecting routine blood work results. "How long?" he asked. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett. Weeks, not months." He was dying. Actually dying. And the first person he thought of wasn't his children at the estate. It was Amara. Amara in Portland, 3,000 miles away, who he hadn't seen in 18 years. He tried calling her number. It had changed. He tried her old email. No response. He called Sophia. "Dad?" Sophia's voice was surprised. They talked occasionally, but the relationship was distant, polite. "I need your mother's number," he said. "Why?" "I'm sick, Sophia. Really sick. I need to talk to her." There was a long pause. "How sick?" "Dying sick." Another pause. "I'll ask her if she wants you to have it. I'm not giving it without her permission." That night, Sophia called Amara. "Mom, Dad called. He says he's dying and needs to talk to you." Amara was in her Portland garden when the call came. She'd been planting bulbs for spring. Her hands were covered in soil. "Dying how?" He didn't say, just that it's serious. Amara sat down on her porch steps. She was 56 years old. She hadn't seen Harrison in 18 years. She'd built a life without him. She was at peace. "Tell him I'm sorry he's unwell," Amara said carefully. "But I don't think there's anything left to say." "Mom, he sounded scared." "People get scared when they face consequences. That's not my responsibility anymore." But 2 days later, a different call came. Jonathan Hayes, attorney. "Mrs. Brooks Bennett, I'm Jonathan Hayes. I represent Harrison Bennett. He's asked me to contact you. He's been diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. Weeks to live, possibly less." "I'm sorry to hear that," Amara said. "But I'm not sure why you're calling me." "Mr. Bennett has been revising his will. There are things you need to know. Things about his estate, about provisions he's made. But more than that, Mrs. Bennett, he's asking to see you. He says there are things he needs to tell you before he dies." "I don't want his money, Mr. Hayes." "I understand, but this isn't about money. Or it's not only about money. He says he's finally doing something he should have done 30 years ago, and he's running out of time." Amara stood in her kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, looking out at the garden she'd planted, a life she'd built, peace she'd earned. "He's had 30 years to do the right thing," she said. "I know, Mrs. Bennett. He knows. That's why he's asking now. He may not last the month." Amara closed her eyes. Part of her wanted to say no, to protect the peace she'd built. But another part, a part she'd thought she'd buried, remembered the man she'd loved. The man who'd brought her gardenias and held her through grief and been her best friend before he became her greatest disappointment. "I need to think about it," she said. She called Sophia that night. "Your father's dying, weeks maybe." His attorney called. "I know. He called me too, said he wants to see both of us." "What do you want to do?" Amara asked. "I don't know, Mom. I said goodbye to him years ago. I don't know if I need to do it again. But maybe I'm still angry. Maybe I need to say things I never got to say." "Then maybe we both need this," Amara said quietly. December 18th, 2024, 3 o'clock in the morning. Amara booked a flight from Portland to Connecticut. Sophia flew in from Seattle. They'd both decided, independently and together, that they needed this closure. Amara hadn't seen Harrison in 18 years. She didn't know what she'd say. She didn't know if she'd cry or scream or simply stand there silent, but she was going. The hospital was quiet at 3:42 in the morning when Amara walked through the VIP wing doors. Sophia was behind her. Attorney Hayes led them to Harrison's room. Outside the door, Hayes paused. His children are inside. Gregory, Victoria, Thomas. They don't know about you. Any of this. Be prepared for shock. Amara straightened her shoulders. I've been prepared for 30 years. She opened the door. The room was dim, just the glow of monitors. Harrison lay in the bed, unconscious, barely breathing. 3 adults stood around him. A man in his late 50s, tall, commanding. A woman about the same age, elegant, tearful. A younger man, quieter, watching his father with sad eyes. They all turned when Amara entered. Gregory stepped forward immediately. Excuse me, who are you? This is family only. Amara ignored him. She walked straight to Harrison's bedside. Behind her, she heard Hayes clear his throat. Mr. Bennett, this is Amara Brooks Bennett, your father's wife. That's absurd, Victoria said. Father's been widowed since mother died. Your father was divorced from your mother in 1994, Hayes said calmly. He remarried in January 1995. This is his legal wife of 30 years. 30 years? Thomas looked shocked. That's not possible. We would have known. But Amara wasn't listening to them. She was looking at Harrison. She reached out, took his hand. It was thin, cold, so different from the strong hands that used to hold hers. Harrison, she whispered. His eyes opened. For the first time in 12 hours, according to the nurse, his eyes actually opened and focused. He saw her face. You came, he breathed. I shouldn't have, Amara said, but I did. Tears formed in his eyes. I'm sorry. God, Amara, I'm so sorry. I wasted everything. Our whole lives. Yes, you did. Can you forgive me? Amara looked at him for a long moment. Behind her, she could feel his children watching, stunned. She could feel Sophia standing near the door, arms crossed. I forgave you years ago, Harrison, she said quietly. For me, not for you. I forgave you so I could move on, so I could stop carrying your weakness around like a weight. I love you. I always loved you. I know. It just wasn't enough to make you brave. Gregory tried to interrupt. This is insane, Hayes. Call security. Hayes held up a hand. I'd advise against that, Mr. Bennett. Your father has legal documents I'm required to present. Mrs. Bennett has every legal right to be here. Harrison's grip on Amara's hand tightened slightly. Sophia? She's here, Amara said, glancing back. Sophia stepped forward into Harrison's sightline. He looked at his daughter, 25 years old now, beautiful and fierce and carrying the hurt he'd put there. Baby girl, he whispered. Dad. Her voice was flat. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I missed everything. I'm sorry I was too weak. You were, Sophia said. But I turned out fine anyway. Mom made sure of that. Harrison's breathing was labored. The will. Everything. They'll know the truth. They'll have to acknowledge you both. It's not enough, but it's what I can give you now. We don't need your acknowledgement anymore, Harrison, Amara said. We needed it 30 years ago. Now? She shook her head. Now we've built lives without it. I know, but take it anyway. Please, let me do this one thing right. His monitors beeped irregularly. Victoria moved to call the nurse, but Harrison shook his head slightly. Stay. All of you. Stay. So they did. Gregory, Victoria, and Thomas stood on one side of the bed, shocked and silent. Amara and Sophia stood on the other, and Harrison Bennett who'd spent 30 years hiding half his heart, died at 6:23 that morning with everyone finally in the same room. Amara was holding his hand when his breathing stopped. She felt the moment he left, that subtle shift from presence to absence. She gently laid his hand on the bed and stepped back. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said to the 3 stunned faces across from her. Then she walked out. The rest of that morning was surreal. Amara sat in a hospital waiting room while Harrison's children huddled with Hayes, demanding explanations. Sophia sat beside her mother, holding her hand. "You okay?" Sophia asked. "I don't know," Amara admitted. "I think so. It feels like closing a book I read years ago. Sad, but distant." "Mom, you loved him for 30 years. It's okay to be sad." "I am sad, but I'm also relieved." "Does that make me terrible?" "It makes you honest." At noon, Hayes approached them. "Mr. Bennett has arranged for the will reading to take place this evening, 7 p.m., at the estate. He insisted all parties be present." "We'll be there," Sophia said. That evening, Amara and Sophia drove to the Bennett estate in Connecticut. Amara had never been there. In 30 years of marriage, she'd never seen where Harrison actually lived. The house was enormous, old money, stately, everything she'd imagined. Gregory, Victoria, and Thomas were already in the study when they arrived. A CPA and witness were present as well. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Hayes began without preamble. "Before we proceed to the formal will, Mr. Bennett left specific instructions that several documents be presented and read aloud in order with all parties present." "Can we just get to the assets?" Gregory asked tersely. "We will, but your father was very specific about the order." Hayes opened the first envelope. "This is a certified copy of a marriage certificate." He read, "Harrison Bennett and Amara Brooks, married January 14, 1995, New York City. Witnessed by Edward Mills and notarized." "I want that authenticated," Gregory said immediately. "Already done. By 3 separate firms at your father's request. It's legitimate and legal." Victoria stood up. "This is impossible. If father remarried, why did he never tell us? Why did he hide her?" Hayes didn't answer. He opened the second envelope. "Birth certificate. Sophia Bennett, born May 15, 1999. Father, Harrison Bennett. Mother, Amara Brooks Bennett." All eyes turned to Sophia. She met their gazes steadily. "Hello, half-siblings. I'm Sophia, your sister. Surprise." "This is a con," Gregory said flatly. "They're con artists." Amara spoke for the first time since entering. "I haven't asked for anything. I didn't even know about this will until 3 days ago. I came because your father asked me to. That's all." Thomas, the youngest, spoke quietly. "How old are you?" 25, Sophia said. "Born 4 years after Dad divorced your mother. 4 years after he married mine. In case you're doing the math." Victoria sank back into her chair. "I don't understand any of this." "You will," Hayes said. He pulled out the will itself. "Estate valuation, approximately $850 million. He paused. "Distribution as follows." The room was silent. To Gregory Bennett, $100 million, continued position as CEO of Bennett Global Holdings, and controlling shares in the company. Gregory's face was unreadable. To Victoria Bennett Crawford, $100 million, full ownership of the Bennett estate in Connecticut and associated property assets. Victoria put a hand to her mouth. To Thomas Bennett, $100 million, board positions in all Bennett family companies, and the Newport property. Thomas nodded slowly. To Amara Brooks Bennett, $250 million, full ownership of the Brooklyn townhouse previously held in trust, significant shares in Bennett Global Holdings, and personal items specified in Attachment A. The room erupted. She gets more than any of us? Gregory was on his feet. This is outrageous. Hayes continued calmly. To Sophia Bennett, $250 million, board position equal to all siblings in Bennett Global Holdings, full ownership of the Martha's Vineyard property, and education trust fund. They get more than us combined, Victoria's voice was shrill. Actually, Hayes said, your father structured this quite deliberately. As his legal wife of 30 years, Mrs. Brooks Bennett was entitled to half of everything, $425 million. He limited her portion to $250 million to ensure you all received substantial inheritances. He was, in his words, trying to be fair to everyone. Sophia laughed bitterly. Fair? That's one word for it. Hayes wasn't finished. Finally, $50 million is allocated to establish the Brooks Bennett Foundation, focused on racial equity in business, to be managed by Amara Brooks Bennett and Sophia Bennett. Why? Victoria asked. If she was really his wife, why did he hide her all these years? Sophia's voice was sharp. Why do you think? Hayes pulled out a tablet. Your father recorded a personal message. He insisted all parties view it together. He pressed play. The screen showed Harrison in a hospital bed 2 weeks before his death, weak but still commanding attention. He looked directly into the camera. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And I owe all of you the truth. I was too cowardly to speak while alive. His voice was tired but clear. Gregory, Victoria, Thomas, you're angry, confused, maybe disgusted. Direct that at me, not at Amara or Sophia. I lied to you for 30 years. I had a wife and a daughter and I hid them like I was ashamed. But I wasn't ashamed of them. I was ashamed of myself. Ashamed that I fell in love with a brilliant, beautiful black woman and was too weak to defend that love publicly. Victoria's hand went to her mouth. Thomas looked down. Gregory's face was stone. I met Amara in 1992. Your mother and I were already divorced in everything but paperwork. I fell in love for the first time in my life at 50 years old. I divorced your mother in 1994. I married Amara in January 1995. And then I hid her. I promised we'd go public after this, after that, after the next thing. I broke every promise. For 10 years she waited, and then she stopped waiting. In 2006, she gave me an ultimatum. Claim us publicly or lose us. And I lost them. Because I was a coward. Amara wiped her eyes quietly. Sophia was born in 1999. My daughter, your sister. She's brilliant, fierce, moral in ways I never was. She grew up with a part-time father. I missed birthday parties because I was too afraid of explaining who she was. I missed school events because I couldn't be seen with her. She learned early that her father loved his reputation more than his family. She deserved so much better. Sophia's jaw was tight. For 18 years, I've been separated from Amara. We never divorced. Legally, she remained my wife. But in every meaningful way, I lost her in 2006. I called every week, begged for another chance, promised I'd go public soon, but soon never came. She built a life without me. She raised our daughter alone. She invested the money I sent and made herself financially independent. She didn't need me, and I sat in that big empty house being respectable and hollow. Harrison's image on the screen looked directly at the camera. I'm dying now, and facing death finally gave me the courage I lacked in life. This will, this video, this public acknowledgement is 30 years too late. But it's all I have. Amara, if you're watching, I loved you every single day. I just didn't love you bravely. I'm sorry. Sophia, I failed you as a father. You deserved to carry my name proudly, not hidden. I hope this foundation, this recognition, begins to make amends. He paused, breathing labored. Gregory, Victoria, Thomas, and Sophia, you're siblings. You share my blood. What you do with that is your choice. You can fight, contest this will, destroy each other in courts and tabloids. Or you can do what I couldn't. Be brave enough to choose connection over prejudice. I hope you're better than I was." His voice dropped lower. "My biggest regret isn't business failures or missed opportunities. It's 30 years of dinners Amara ate alone. Birthday parties I missed. A daughter who grew up explaining why her father was never there. The moments I traded for respectability left me completely empty. Don't make my mistake. Love bravely. Live honestly. It's the only thing that matters." The screen went black. The study was silent for a long moment. Finally, Thomas spoke. He was right. He was a coward. He looked at Amara. "And you stayed married to him anyway?" "I loved him," Amara said simply. "People make foolish choices for love." "But you left," Thomas said. "I chose myself. Finally." Victoria's voice was small. "I don't know how to process this." Gregory stood abruptly. "The will is ironclad, I assume?" Hayes nodded. "Your father anticipated contests. Anyone who legally challenges it forfeits their entire inheritance to charity." "Of course he did." Gregory looked at Amara for a long moment. "Did you love him? Really?" "Every single day for 30 years, Amara said. "Even after I left. Even when I shouldn't have." Gregory's expression flickered. "And he chose us over you. Chose protecting us from the scandal of having a black stepmother over protecting you." "He chose fear," Amara corrected. "Over everyone." 5 years later, in November 2029, the Brooks Bennett Foundation held its annual gala in Manhattan. The foundation had grown to a $200 million endowment. 50 scholarship recipients were honored that night. 25 new black-owned businesses had been funded that year. It had become a major force in addressing racial equity in corporate America. Sophia, now 30, stood at the podium as executive director. She'd grown into her role beautifully. Sharp, compassionate, strategic. Beside her on stage, Amara at 61 served as chairman of the board. And sitting on the board beside them, surprisingly, was Thomas Bennett. He'd joined in year 2. Slowly, cautiously, he'd reached out to Sophia. Coffee meetings, then dinners, long conversations about their father, about regret, about what family could mean. He'd told her once, "I'm sorry I didn't know you sooner. I wish I'd had the courage to ask Dad the questions I should have." Now they texted regularly, had dinner monthly. He'd become the brother Sophia never knew she needed. Victoria was in the audience that night. She approached Amara during the cocktail hour, nervous. "My therapist says I should tell you I'm sorry," Victoria began. "She's right. I am. For how I reacted that night. For the assumptions I made. The prejudices I didn't question because they were comfortable." Amara studied her for a moment. "Your father's choices weren't your fault. But my reaction was my choice. I've spent 5 years in therapy realizing how much racism I absorbed without ever examining it. I'm trying to do better. For my children. So they don't inherit what I did." Sophia joined them then. Victoria turned to her. "I'd like to get to know you. As my sister. If you're willing." "I'd like that," Sophia said after a pause. "But it'll take time." "I understand." Gregory hadn't come. He maintained a professional relationship with Sophia regarding company business. But the personal reconciliation hadn't happened. He'd acknowledged her publicly once in a business magazine, calling her my father's daughter. It was something. Small, but something. Later, Amara stepped onto the balcony, city lights spreading below. Sophia found her there. "You okay, Mom?" "I'm good, baby. Actually good. Do you regret it? The 30 years?" Amara considered the question. "I regret what he missed. All the moments he chose to hide from. But I don't regret loving him. Or you. Or learning to love myself enough to walk away when I had to. I wish he'd been braver sooner." Me too. But he was brave at the end. And that gave you this. She gestured to the gala, the foundation, the full room of people benefiting from the work they'd built. It's not the same as having a father who claimed you from the start, but it's something. It is something, Sophia agreed. They stood together for a moment, mother and daughter, looking at the life they'd built from the ashes of broken promises. Inside, the program was starting. Sophia returned to the podium. Amara watched from the doorway as her daughter addressed the crowd. My father told me once, in secret, that truth always surfaces. He was right. But courage determines when. He found his courage at the very end, literally on his deathbed. And that moment changed everything. Not just inheritances or foundations, but the simple fact that I can stand here tonight and say, I am Sophia Bennett. Not a secret, not hidden, not ashamed. Just here. Fully here. The room applauded. Thomas was on his feet. Victoria wiped her eyes. Even Gregory, watching from a live stream somewhere, might have felt something shift. Amara touched her grandmother's gold bracelet, the one she'd worn for 30 years. The engraving caught the light. Truth endures. She smiled. Small, private, at peace. She'd shown up at Harrison's deathbed after 18 years apart. Not because she needed him anymore, but because she'd needed to close that chapter with grace. And in that final moment, death had forced him to do what life never could. Tell the truth. The truth arrived late. 30 years late. But it arrived. And sometimes, for those brave enough to survive the wait, and strong enough to build their own worth in the meantime, late is still better than never. Justice delayed isn't always justice denied. Sometimes it's justice that had to travel a longer road, carried by those who refused to disappear even when they were hidden, who built their own light even when kept in shadows. And that light, once lit, illuminates everything.